right? She wants the privilege of insulting you, hating you, but then wants you to also show up to her Disney remake of the Snow White that she hates.
The storm surrounding Disney's ill-fated Snow White remake has escalated far beyond a box office disappointment. It's evolved into a career-altering scandal. The spotlight has shifted from public reception to a very personal fallout between its lead actresses, Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot. What once appeared to be a creative clash has now hardened into legal confrontation. In an industry where PR spin is standard procedure, this is anything but routine. Gal Gadot, known publicly for her grace and professionalism, has now taken a firm stance behind closed doors, and it may well be the final blow to Zegler's already faltering career. Initially, the project was envisioned as a bold reimagining of Disney's 1937 classic. With Zegler in the title role and Gadot playing the evil queen, the studio hoped to balance fresh representation with
You don't seemingly like your own character, so she comes off as an insufferable, whiny brat.
Nostalgic appeal. But from the moment Zegler's comments about the original Snow White hit the internet, things began to unravel. Her public critiques of the film's traditional values and the princess's lack of agency ignited a firestorm among longtime fans. She didn't merely update the character, she publicly disavowed the original. And in doing so, she alienated the very audience the film was supposed to attract. As backlash mounted, it was clear that Zegler's interviews and social media posts weren't just minor missteps. She began positioning the original as a flawed relic, and by implication, her critics as regressive. Meanwhile, Gadot maintained a careful distance. Her press appearances remained focused on the character, the craft, and the legacy of the story. She refrained from engaging in controversy, keeping her public image above the fray. At the time, it looked like a neutral stance, but insiders now suggest it was anything but passive. Reports have since surfaced that Zegler was preparing to publicly shift the blame for the film's failure. Through a planned series of interviews and media appearances, she allegedly intended to cast Gadot in a negative light, accusing her of being difficult, uncooperative, and part of the internal tension that plagued the production. The implication? That Gadot's refusal to embrace the rebranded vision for Snow White created creative discord and fed into the film's bad energy. But before that narrative could reach the airwaves, Gadot responded, not with tweets or statements, but with legal firepower. Her legal team swiftly issued warnings to Zegler's camp, making it clear that any defamatory remarks made in public would be met with swift and aggressive action. What happened next spoke volumes. Zegler's entire media campaign vanished. Scheduled appearances were canceled. The supposed Rachel's side of the story interview disappeared from production listings. Without saying a word publicly, Gadot had pulled the plug on what could have been a career-damaging smear campaign. What followed was silence.
I just have to note the smugness and superiority on this 23, 25, something like that, girl's face. Yeah, and a little bit of humility, you know? This is a story.
On Zegler's part, the usually outspoken star went dark on social media. No clarification, no defiance, no counter-accusation. The implication was obvious. Her accusations couldn't stand up to scrutiny. Industry insiders interpreted the abrupt about-face as confirmation that she had overstepped and knew it. Gadot's response was strategic, measured, and effective. While the storm raged online, she remained unbothered in public, continuing her press duties for unrelated projects and carefully avoiding the scandal altogether. Public perception tilted even more in her favor. Here was an actress who played the villain on screen, but refused to become one in real life. Professional, dignified, and unwavering. Disney, desperate to save face, quietly adjusted their promotional strategy. A once-planned behind-the-scenes featurette that would have reunited Zegler, Gadot, and co-stars in a friendly making-of segment was canned. Further cast-centric marketing content was trimmed or scrapped altogether. One executive reportedly told staff, "Let's just focus on the visuals. The less we show of the cast together, the better." In the aftermath, Zegler's career prospects have taken a nosedive. She's no longer being courted for blockbuster roles. Instead, she's pivoting toward indie cinema, working with Marisa Tomei on a project rumored to have a budget of just a few million. Gone are the days of red carpet premieres and Disney backing. What remains is a quiet recalibration. The actress who once stood on the verge of becoming a studio's next megastar is now working in the periphery of Hollywood's spotlight. Gadot, meanwhile, has only solidified her status. Her refusal to get entangled in drama has enhanced her reputation. Directors, producers, and industry veterans have praised her restraint behind the scenes. Her agents have received a spike in interest from studios looking for dependable stars, talent who won't implode a PR campaign or ignite fanboy revolts with careless commentary. The bigger issue, however, transcends both actresses. Disney itself is facing the consequences of a miscalculation that goes far beyond casting. The studio's pattern of deconstructing legacy films without fully respecting their cultural weight has begun to erode trust with audiences. Snow White was never going to be easy to remake. But instead of reverence, it was approached with revisionist arrogance. What made the original magical was reduced to a checklist of what needed fixing. That approach has burned them repeatedly. For every successful reimagining like Cinderella or The Jungle Book, there's a string of misfires. The Little Mermaid, Peter Pan and Wendy, Pinocchio. And now Snow White stands as perhaps the most catastrophic example yet, not just because it failed critically and commercially, but because it sparked a cultural rift and a brand crisis. Zegler's fall fits neatly into this larger pattern. An unproven star was handed a cultural icon and encouraged to reinterpret it as she saw fit. When audiences pushed back, instead of engaging with humility, she pushed harder, framing fans as outdated and critics as intolerant. That's not how you build bridges, that's how you burn them. Gadot, whether intentionally or instinctively, understood this. She didn't need to defend the original with grand speeches. She simply respected it, enough not to publicly mock it, enough not to belittle its fans. That silence proved more powerful than any PR campaign. In a way, she played the evil queen on screen while embodying the real heroine off it. Zegler may still find a way back into Hollywood's good graces. Stranger things have happened, but the path forward will require reflection, accountability, and above all, humility. Right now, none of that is evident. Her recent apology attempt, a convoluted mix of vague remorse and firm reiteration of her past opinions, was widely mocked for its insincerity. It was seen not as growth, but as desperation. She said, "Being a strong woman means remaining silent," in one breath, and then used several more to double down on the same arguments that helped doom the film. That contradiction didn't help her case. It made things worse. It showed that she still doesn't grasp why people turned on the project in the first place. It wasn't because she was outspoken. It was because her messaging alienated fans who cared deeply about the story. And instead of listening, she treated that love as backwardness. When she lost their trust, she blamed them. And now, those audiences have moved on, and so has Disney. Hollywood will continue to reboot and remake, but the lesson from Snow White may finally be sinking in. You can't build a modern classic on contempt for the old one, and you can't anchor a film around a performer who refuses to understand the story they're telling. At the center of this cinematic cautionary tale are two actresses, one who mistook provocation for leadership, and another who let silence speak louder than scandal. Gal Gadot never needed to raise her voice. She let the truth and her team do the heavy lifting. Now, as one career finds itself floundering and the other stands untouched, the industry watches and learns. If you're following this saga, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Did Rachel Zegler go too far in trying to reshape Snow White? Was Gal Gadot justified in using legal measures to shut down the counter-narrative? Should Disney rethink its approach to legacy storytelling entirely? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more breakdowns like this, and ring the notification bell. Because if the drama keeps coming, we'll be here to unpack it. Every last act.